The morning sun of Zenith Prime cast its gentle blue light through the tall windows of the Galactic Academy of Advanced Sciences. Students from dozens of different worlds walked through the peaceful corridors, their various forms creating a colorful display of galactic diversity. Some floated, some walked on multiple legs, and others glided smoothly across the polished floors. Professor Kethvar adjusted his teaching robes and checked his notes one final time. Today was special. For the first time in the Academy's long history, they would welcome students from the newly discovered human colonies. The Zenthari professor's scales shifted to a light green color, showing his excitement about this historic moment. The advanced weapons theory classroom was larger than most, designed to accommodate students of different sizes and needs. Aquatic tanks lined one wall for the Nereid students, while crystal resonance platforms provided comfortable seating for the silicate species. The room hummed quietly with translation devices and environmental controls. Zixtal from the Nereid system floated in his water-filled study pod, his gill slits moving rhythmically as he breathed. His large dark eyes watched the classroom entrance with curiosity. Like most of his aquatic species, he had heard strange stories about the new human students. "I wonder what they look like," Zixtal whispered to his study partner through the water speaker system. "I heard they come from Deathworlds." Grenth, a crystalline being from the silicate colonies, flickered with soft light patterns that showed his interest. His body was made of living crystal that changed colors based on his emotions. Right now, he glowed with curious yellow tones. "Deathworlds are classified as Class 9 planets," Grenth said, his voice creating musical tones through his crystal structure. "Most civilized species cannot survive on such worlds. These humans must be very primitive." Yulma, a gas-based life form from the outer system colonies, expanded her gaseous body slightly in what passed for a shrug among her people. She existed in a specially designed containment suit that allowed her to interact with solid matter. "Primitive. Yes, but probably strong," Yulma said through her suit's speaker. "Any species that survives on a death world must be tough. I wonder if they know how to think about advanced topics like weapon theory." Professor Kethvar entered the classroom, and all the students settled into their preferred learning positions. The professor was an impressive figure, even by galactic standards. His reptilian features and colorful scales marked him as one of the Zenthari, a species known throughout the galaxy for their wisdom and teaching skills. "Good morning, students," Professor Kethvar said, his voice carrying easily through the room's acoustic systems. "Today begins a new chapter in our Academy's history. We are joined by our first exchange students from the human colonies." A ripple of excitement moved through the classroom. Some students shifted in their seats, while others changed colors or adjusted their environmental suits. Everyone wanted to see what these mysterious humans looked like. "Before they arrive, let me remind you of our Academy's values," the professor continued. "We welcome all species with respect and open minds. These human students have traveled very far to study with us. I expect you to treat them as you would want to be treated in their place." The classroom door opened with a soft hiss, and 3 figures walked in. The alien students stared in fascination at their first sight of humans. They looked much smaller than expected, with soft, pale skin and strange fur growing only on the tops of their heads. Their bodies seemed weak and fragile compared to the sturdy forms of most galactic species. "Please welcome Jake Martinez, Lisa, Park, and Ryan Bell," Professor Kethvar announced. "They come to us from the human colonies of New Texas, Luna, and Mars." Jake Martinez was the first to step forward. He was tall for a human, with dark hair and calm eyes. He wore simple clothes that seemed practical rather than decorative. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but clear. "Thank you, Professor Kethvar," Jake said. "We are honored to study here at the Academy. We look forward to learning from all of you." Lisa Park was shorter than Jake, with black hair pulled back in a simple style. Her eyes moved quickly around the room, taking in all the different species and technology. She seemed to be analyzing everything she saw. "This is amazing," Lisa said with a smile. "We have read about many of your species, but seeing you in person is incredible. We hope to share knowledge with all of you." Ryan Bell was built differently from the other 2 humans. His shoulders were broader and he stood very straight like a soldier. His hair was cut short, and his eyes seemed to notice every detail in the room. When he spoke, his voice was respectful but firm. "We appreciate this opportunity," Ryan said simply. "We will do our best to be good students and good representatives of humanity." The alien students whispered among themselves as the humans took their seats. The translation devices picked up fragments of their conversations. "They look so fragile," one student said. "How did they survive on Deathworlds looking like that?" asked another. "Maybe they are not as primitive as we thought if they made it to space," suggested a third. Professor Kethvar raised one scaled hand for silence. "Now that we are all here, let me explain what we study in this class. Advanced weapons theory is about understanding how different species approach the concept of conflict resolution through technology." The alien students nodded knowingly. This was a popular subject among civilized species, who prided themselves on developing elegant, non-lethal solutions to disputes. Most galactic civilizations have moved beyond primitive violence, the professor continued. "We study theoretical weapon designs not to create actual weapons, but to understand how different environments and cultures shape thinking about conflict." Zixtal's gills fluttered with interest. "Professor, on my homeworld we developed sonic systems that can calm aggressive behavior in sea creatures. We use sound to create peace rather than conflict." "Excellent example, Zixtal," Professor Kethavar replied. "Your people's understanding of acoustic harmony is well known throughout the galaxy." Grenth's crystal body brightened. "My people create light patterns that can confuse or misdirect, but never harm. We believe that the most elegant solution is always the one that preserves life." "Very good, Grenth. The silicate approach to conflict resolution through optical illusion is indeed elegant." Yulma expanded slightly in her containment suit. "On my homeworld, we use pressure changes to create barriers and safe zones. We can stop conflicts by changing the environment rather than harming the participants." "Outstanding, Yulma. Your people's mastery of atmospheric manipulation is remarkable." Professor Kethavar turned to the human students. "And what about your species? How do humans approach conflict resolution?" The three humans exchanged quick glances. Jake cleared his throat softly. "Well, Professor, human approaches to conflict have been different from what we are hearing here." "Different how?" the professor asked with interest. Lisa shifted in her seat. "Humans have traditionally focused on practical solutions. Our methods have been shaped by the harsh conditions of our homeworlds." Ryan remained silent, but the alien students noticed his jaw muscles tighten slightly. "Fascinating, Professor," Kethavar said. "I look forward to learning about human perspectives on theoretical weapon design. Your Deathworld background must provide unique insights into survival-based thinking." Several alien students made small sounds of agreement. They assumed that humans, coming from such dangerous planets, would have interesting but probably simple ideas about protection and defense. "Next week we will begin our semester project," the professor announced. "Each student will design a theoretical weapon system based on their homeworld's unique properties and resources. Remember, this is purely academic. We are exploring ideas, not creating actual devices." As the class ended and students began to leave, the aliens clustered together, talking excitedly about their human classmates. "They seem nice enough," Zixtal said, "but I wonder what kind of simple weapons they will design." "Probably something basic," Grenth agreed, his crystals pulsing with amusement. "Deathworld species usually think in very direct terms. I am curious to see how they adapt to civilized academic thinking," Yulma added. Meanwhile, the three human students walked together toward the exit. They moved more quietly than the other students, and their conversation was too low for the translation devices to pick up clearly. "We need to be very careful about this assignment," Jake said quietly. "Agreed," Lisa replied. "We should probably tone things down significantly." Ryan just nodded grimly. They have no idea what they are asking for. As the humans left the classroom, none of the alien students suspected that they had just met representatives of the most militarily advanced species in known galactic history. The semester was about to become much more interesting than anyone expected. The next class meeting arrived 3 days later. The Advanced Weapons Theory classroom buzzed with excited conversation as students from across the galaxy discussed their ideas for the semester project. The gentle blue light of zenith primes, sun streamed through the windows, creating patterns on the floor where different species gathered in their preferred environmental zones. Professor Kethvar entered the room carrying a data pad and several holographic display devices. His scales showed a pleased green color as he observed his students' enthusiasm. The mixing of so many different species in one classroom still amazed him, even after years of teaching. "Good morning, everyone," the professor said, his voice carrying clearly through the room's translation systems. "I can see you are all excited about our project. Today we will discuss the details and requirements." Zixtal floated in his water-filled study pod, his large eyes bright with interest. He had spent the past few days thinking about his home world's unique properties. The oceanic world of Nereid Prime offered many interesting possibilities for theoretical weapon design. "Professor," Zixtal said, raising one of his fin hands, "will we be working individually or in groups?" "Individual projects," Professor Kethvar replied. "This assignment is designed to help you think creatively about how your species' natural environment shapes your approach to problem solving." Grenth's crystal body flickered with yellow excitement patterns. "How detailed should our designs be? Should we include technical specifications?" "Focus on the core concept first," the professor answered. "Explain the basic principle, how it relates to your homeworld, and why your species might think of such a solution. Technical details can come later if time permits." Yulma expanded slightly in her containment suit, a sign of curiosity among her gaseous species. "Are there any restrictions on the type of theoretical weapons we can design?" Professor Kethvar's scales shifted to a more serious blue-green color. "Remember, this is purely academic. We are exploring theoretical concepts, not practical applications. The weapons you design should reflect advanced thinking about conflict resolution. Most civilized species prefer non-lethal solutions that preserve life while ending disputes." Several alien students nodded in agreement. This was the standard approach taught throughout the Galactic Academy system. Violence was considered primitive, something that advanced civilizations had evolved beyond. "I have some examples from previous classes," the professor continued, activating a holographic display. "Here we see a Vegan student's design for a neural dampening field that temporarily reduces aggressive behavior. Here is a Centaurian gravity manipulation device that can restrain without harming. And this is an Andromedan time dilation bubble that slows down conflicts until cooler minds can prevail." The alien students studied the examples with appreciation. Each design was elegant, sophisticated, and focused on ending conflict without causing permanent harm. "These are beautiful solutions," Lisa Park said quietly. She was taking notes on a small electronic device, her fingers moving quickly across its surface. "Yes, they represent the highest ideals of civilized problem-solving," Professor Kethvar agreed. "Now let us discuss how you might approach this assignment." The alien students immediately began sharing their initial ideas with enthusiasm. Zixtal spoke first. "On my homeworld, we have creatures called harmony whales. They produce songs that can calm even the most aggressive predators. I am thinking about a device that could recreate these songs and project them over large areas." "Interesting approach," the professor said, "using natural behavioral modification principles. Very thoughtful." Grenth's crystals pulsed with excited colors. "My planet has crystal formations that can bend and focus light in amazing ways. I want to design something that creates optical illusions. It could make weapons appear to malfunction, or make enemies think they are surrounded when they are not." "Excellent use of your homeworld's unique properties," Professor Kethvar praised. "Psychological deterrence without physical harm." Yulma's voice came through her suit's speakers with clear excitement. "My gas giant homeworld has extreme pressure variations. I am considering a device that could create pressure barriers or low-pressure zones. It could separate combatants or create safe areas for civilians." "Very creative thinking," the professor said. "Environmental manipulation for conflict control." Other alien students began sharing their ideas as well. A student from the desert, Worlds talked about sand-based concealment systems. Another from the ice planets discussed temperature-based crowd control methods. Each idea followed the same pattern: sophisticated, non-lethal, and focused on control rather than destruction. Finally, Professor Kethavar turned to the human students. "And what about our exchange students? What ideas are you considering?" "Jake?" Martinez shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He looked at his two human classmates before speaking. "Well, Professor, we have been discussing this among ourselves. Human history and our homeworld experiences might lead us to different approaches." "Different how?" Zixtal asked from his water pod. "What makes human thinking unique?" Lisa Park cleared her throat softly. "Earth and the human colonies are classified as Class 9 Deathworlds. The environments that shaped human development were extremely hostile. Our approaches to conflict resolution have been influenced by the need for immediate, practical solutions." "That sounds fascinating," Grenth said, his crystals brightening with curiosity. "What kind of practical solutions?" Ryan Bell had remained silent during most of the discussion, but now he spoke in his measured, careful voice. "Human solutions have traditionally focused on effectiveness over elegance. When your survival depends on stopping a threat quickly, you tend to develop direct methods." Professor Kethavar's scales showed interested green patterns. "Can you give us an example of this direct thinking?" The three humans exchanged another quick glance. Jake spoke carefully. "For instance, if humans were threatened by a dangerous animal, we would not try to calm it or confuse it. We would find a way to stop it permanently." A quiet fell over the classroom. The alien students had never heard such blunt language about conflict resolution. "Stop it permanently?" Yulma asked, her gas form contracting slightly. "You mean kill it?" "If necessary, yes," Jake said simply. "Human homeworlds have predators that cannot be reasoned with or controlled through non-lethal means. Sometimes survival requires permanent solutions." The alien students began whispering among themselves. The translation devices picked up fragments of their conversations, most expressing shock or confusion at this concept. "But surely," Professor Kethavar said carefully, "human civilization has evolved beyond such primitive approaches." Lisa Park answered this time. "Human technology has become more sophisticated, but our basic problem-solving philosophy remains practical. We still believe that the best solution is the one that works reliably under pressure." "What kind of weapons are you planning to design for this project?" Grenth asked, his crystal body now showing nervous orange patterns. Ryan Bell's expression became even more serious. "That is what we have been discussing. We want to participate fully in this academic exercise, but we are concerned about presenting ideas that might be inappropriate for this classroom environment." "Inappropriate how?" Professor Kethavar asked. "Human weapon designs tend to prioritize stopping power and reliability," Ryan explained. "Our theoretical weapons might seem overly aggressive compared to the elegant solutions your other students are developing." Zixtal's gills fluttered with curiosity. "Can you give us a small example, just to help us understand human thinking?" Jake looked uncomfortable. "Well, a basic human approach might be to design a projectile weapon, something that fires objects at high speed to disable threats through physical impact." The classroom fell completely silent. The concept of deliberately harming an opponent was foreign to most galactic civilizations. "Physical impact?" Grenth asked, his voice creating confused musical tones. "You mean causing injury?" "If necessary," Jake replied. "Human weapons are designed to be effective first, elegant second." Professor Kethavar's scales shifted to a worried yellow color. "I see. This is indeed a very different approach from what we typically study. However, this is exactly why exchange programs are valuable. We can learn from each other's perspectives." "We want to be respectful of your academic environment," Lisa said quickly. "Perhaps we could design something less direct than what humans would normally create?" No, the professor said, though his scales still showed uncertain colors. "Academic honesty is important. Design weapons that truly represent human thinking. We are here to learn, even if the ideas challenge our assumptions." Ryan Bell nodded slowly. Very well, Professor. But we should warn you that human weapons theory is based on principles that most galactic civilizations have never needed to consider. Such as, Yulma asked. Total effectiveness, Ryan said simply. Human weapons are designed to end conflicts completely and permanently. We do not assume that our enemies will follow civilized rules of engagement. As the class period ended, the alien students left with their minds spinning. They had expected to learn about primitive human thinking, but instead, they were getting hints of something much more complex and disturbing. 2 weeks had passed since Professor Kethvar assigned the theoretical weapon design project. The advanced weapons theory classroom was filled with nervous energy as students prepared to present their ideas. Holographic displays and projection equipment had been set up around the room to accommodate different presentation styles. Professor Kethvar entered the classroom carrying evaluation tablets and looking pleased with anticipation. His scales showed a bright green color that indicated excitement about seeing his students' creative work. Good morning, everyone, the professor announced. Today we will see the results of your hard work. I am eager to learn how each of your unique backgrounds has influenced your approach to theoretical weapon design. The alien students chatted quietly among themselves, confident in their elegant solutions. They had spent weeks refining their non-lethal, sophisticated designs. Each weapon concept represented the highest ideals of civilized conflict resolution. The 3 human students sat together in the back of the classroom. Jake Martinez reviewed his notes one final time, his expression troubled. Lisa Park checked her presentation materials with careful attention to detail. Ryan Bell sat perfectly still, his military training showing in his straight posture and alert eyes. Let us begin with our non-exchange students first, Professor Kethvar said. Zixtal, would you please present your design? Zixtal floated forward in his water-filled mobility pod, his gill slits moving with excitement. He activated a holographic display that showed sound wave patterns and oceanic imagery. I call this the Harmony Projection System, Zixtal began. It is based on the natural songs of harmony whales from my homeworld. The device analyzes the emotional state of aggressive individuals and produces specific sound frequencies that promote calm and peaceful behavior. The hologram showed beautiful, flowing patterns of sound waves that seemed to dance through the air. The design was elegant and artistic, reflecting the aesthetic values of Nereid civilization. The system can cover large areas and affects multiple individuals simultaneously, Zixtal continued. Instead of fighting, people exposed to the harmony frequencies will naturally want to sit down and discuss their problems peacefully. Excellent work, Zixtal, Professor Kethvar praised. Your design shows sophisticated understanding of behavioral modification through natural principles. Very civilized approach. The other alien students made approving sounds. This was exactly the kind of advanced thinking they expected from academy students. Grenth presented next, his crystal body pulsing with proud light patterns. His holographic display showed complex geometric shapes and light refraction diagrams. I present the illusion matrix generator, Grenth announced. This device uses my homeworld's natural crystal formations to create optical illusions that confuse and disorient hostile forces without causing any physical harm. The hologram demonstrated how light could be bent and twisted to make weapons appear to malfunction, create false images of reinforcements, or make enemies believe they were surrounded by overwhelming forces. The subjects experience no pain or injury, Grenth explained. They simply become too confused to continue fighting. Once the illusion ends, they can go home safely with no lasting effects. Beautiful work, Grenth, the professor said. Your use of advanced optical principles to create psychological deterrence is truly impressive. Yulma presented her pressure-based containment system next, followed by several other alien students. Each design was sophisticated, non-lethal, and focused on controlling conflicts through advanced technology and understanding of natural principles. The alien students were pleased with themselves and each other. Their presentations had gone exactly as expected, demonstrating the superiority of civilized thinking over primitive violence. Finally, Professor Kethvar turned to the human students. Now let us hear from our exchange students. Jake Martinez, would you please begin? Jake stood up slowly, gathering his presentation materials with obvious reluctance. He walked to the front of the classroom like a person approaching something unpleasant but necessary. "Before I begin," Jake said, his voice quiet but clear, "I want to apologize in advance. I tried to design something appropriate for academic discussion, but human approaches to conflict resolution are different from what you have been hearing today." He activated his holographic display, and the classroom fell silent. Instead of elegant patterns or beautiful designs, the hologram showed simple mechanical diagrams and basic chemical formulas. "This is what humans call a kinetic projectile weapon," Jake began, his discomfort obvious. "The basic principle is simple. Chemical propellants create expanding gases that accelerate small metal projectiles through a tube at very high velocity." The alien students stared at the display in confusion. The design seemed almost primitive compared to their sophisticated creations. "What does it do?" Zixtal asked, his gills fluttering with curiosity. Jake hesitated for a long moment before answering. "The metal projectiles travel fast enough to penetrate most organic tissue. When they impact a target, they cause immediate structural damage that results in rapid incapacitation." The classroom became very quiet. Professor Kethvar's scales began shifting to worried yellow colors as he processed what Jake had just described. "Jake," the professor said carefully, "are you describing a device designed to injure living beings?" "Yes, sir," Jake replied quietly. "The projectiles cause tissue damage that stops the target from continuing hostile actions. The incapacitation is immediate and permanent." Grenth's crystal body dimmed with shock. "Permanent? You mean it kills them?" "That is the intended result, yes," Jake confirmed. "Human weapons are designed to eliminate threats completely." A wave of horrified whispers swept through the alien students. The translation devices picked up fragments of shocked conversations in dozens of different languages. "But that is barbaric," Yulma said, her gas form contracting in distress. "How can you build devices specifically designed to end life?" "Human homeworlds are dangerous places," Jake explained. "Earth has predators that weigh several tons and can crush bones with their jaws. We have diseases that can kill entire populations. We have natural disasters that destroy whole cities. When humans face a serious threat, we need solutions that work completely and immediately." Professor Kethvar raised one scaled hand for quiet. "I see. Lisa Park, please present your design." Lisa walked to the front with her presentation materials looking even more uncomfortable than Jake had been. She activated her holographic display, showing chemical molecular diagrams and explosion mathematics. "I call this a basic explosive device," Lisa began. "It uses controlled chemical reactions to create rapid expansion of gases, resulting in a pressure wave and fragmentation effects." Her hologram showed the simple but effective principles behind chemical explosives. The alien students watched in growing horror as they began to understand what she was describing. "The device can be triggered remotely or by contact," Lisa continued. "When activated, it produces enough force to incapacitate multiple targets simultaneously within a designated area." "Multiple targets?" Professor Kethvar asked, his voice barely steady. "How many?" "That depends on the size of the device and the environment," Lisa replied. "A basic version might affect everyone within a 20-meter radius. Larger versions could cover several city blocks." Zixtal's entire body trembled in his water pod. "You are describing a weapon designed to kill many people at once?" "Yes," Lisa said simply. "Human military doctrine emphasizes force multiplication. If you face multiple enemies, it is more efficient to neutralize all of them simultaneously, rather than dealing with them individually." The alien students were beyond shocked now. They had never heard anyone speak so casually about ending multiple lives with a single device. "This is much simpler than what humans actually use," Lisa added quickly. "I scaled it down significantly for theoretical discussion. Real human explosive devices are far more sophisticated and effective." Complete silence filled the classroom. Professor Kethvar's scales had shifted to deep purple, a color that indicated severe distress among his species. "Ryan Bell," the professor said slowly, "perhaps you should not present today." I think we have heard enough. Ryan stood up anyway, his military bearing making him look different from his classmates. With respect, Professor, you assigned this project to learn about different approaches to conflict resolution. I think you should hear what I prepared. He walked to the front and activated his display. The hologram showed atmospheric diagrams and chemical distribution patterns that made no sense to the alien students. I designed what humans call an area denial system, Ryan began. It disperses chemical agents through air or water supplies to make specific geographic areas uninhabitable for extended periods. The alien students began making sounds of distress. Even without understanding the technical details, they could sense that Ryan was describing something terrible. The chemical agents can be designed for different effects, Ryan continued in his calm military voice. Some cause immediate incapacitation. Others create long-term health problems that prevent enemy forces from using an area for months or years. Professor Kethavar stood up abruptly. Stop. Please stop the presentation. The silence in the advanced weapons theory classroom stretched on for what felt like hours. Professor Kethavar's scales had turned a deep red color that none of his students had ever seen before. The alien students sat frozen in their various environmental pods and suits trying to process what they had just heard. Zixtal was the first to break the silence. His voice came through the water pod's speakers as barely more than a whisper. Professor, did the humans just tell us that they actually build weapons designed to kill people? Professor Kethavar looked at the three human students, his reptilian features showing deep confusion and concern. Jake, Lisa, Ryan, when you say your species has built and used such devices, are you speaking theoretically? Are these ideas from your imagination? Jake Martinez shook his head slowly. No, Professor. Everything we described today comes from actual human military history. These weapons have been built, tested, and used in conflicts on Earth and the colonial worlds. Used? Grenth's crystal body flickered with terrified orange patterns. You mean humans have actually killed other humans with these devices? Yes, Lisa Park replied quietly. Human history includes many conflicts where survival depended on having more effective weapons than your enemies. These technologies were developed out of necessity. Ryan Bell remained standing at the front of the classroom, his military posture unchanged despite the chaos around him. Professor, you asked us to design weapons based on our homeworld experiences. Human homeworlds have shaped us to think in terms of absolute effectiveness when facing threats. Yulma's gaseous form contracted so much that her containment suit looked almost empty. How many humans have died from these weapons? The three human students exchanged glances. Jake answered carefully. Human conflicts throughout history have resulted in millions of casualties. Our weapons technology developed alongside our population growth and territorial expansion. Millions? Professor Kethavar's voice cracked with shock. Your species has killed millions of your own kind? Human overpopulation and resource competition led to many conflicts, Lisa explained. When different human groups needed the same land or resources, warfare often resulted. Our weapons had to be effective enough to end these conflicts quickly. The alien students began making sounds of distress in their various native languages. The universal translators struggled to convert the emotional complexity of their reactions into understandable speech. A student from the desert world spoke up, his voice shaking. But surely your civilization has evolved beyond such primitive behavior? You have space travel now. You must have learned better ways to solve problems. Ryan's expression became even more serious. Human space expansion actually required more advanced military technology. Colonial worlds face threats that Earth never had. Hostile alien environments, unknown diseases, resource conflicts across multiple star systems. Our weapons had to become more sophisticated, not less. More sophisticated? Grenth asked, his crystalline structure now pulsing with rapid, panicked light patterns. What you showed us today was your primitive technology. Very primitive, Jake confirmed. The projectile weapon I described uses technology that is several hundred years old by human standards. Modern human infantry weapons are far more advanced. Zixtal's gills fluttered rapidly as he tried to process this information. If those were your old weapons, what do your new weapons do? Lisa hesitated before answering. Modern human weapons are classified military technology. I cannot give you specific details, but I can tell you that current human military doctrine focuses on precision, efficiency, and overwhelming force projection. What does that mean in simple terms? Professor, Kethavar asked, though his scales suggested he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. It means modern human weapons can eliminate specific targets from very long distances with perfect accuracy, Ryan explained. Or they can eliminate very large targets with single strikes. Human military forces can project lethal force across entire star systems. The classroom erupted into panicked conversations as alien students began talking frantically among themselves. The translation devices picked up fragments of their discussions. They can kill people from other star systems? How did they become so advanced at warfare? Are they planning to conquer the galaxy? Professor Kethavar raised both hands for silence, his movements shaky. Students, please calm down. Let us try to understand this rationally. The alien students gradually quieted, but their various forms of distress remained obvious. They all stared at the three humans with a mixture of fear and horrified fascination. Humans, the professor said carefully, can you explain how your species developed such advanced military technology? What forces shaped this development? Jake took a deep breath before answering. Earth is a Class 9 Deathworld, Professor. Every day of human evolution was a struggle for survival. We had to compete with predators that were bigger, stronger, and faster than us. We survived by becoming smarter and by making tools. Our tools had to be better than natural weapons, Lisa added. A human cannot fight a bear with bare hands and expect to survive, so we learned to make spears, then bows, then more advanced weapons. Each generation had to make better tools or risk extinction. When humans spread across Earth, we encountered other human groups who were also fighting for survival, Ryan continued. Competition for resources led to conflict. The groups with better weapons survived. The groups with inferior weapons did not. Yulma's voice came through her suit's speakers with obvious distress. But you said you have space travel now. Surely, you have enough resources that you do not need to fight anymore. Space presents new challenges, Jake explained. Colonial worlds have hostile environments that make Earth look safe. Some have predators that make Earth animals look harmless. Others have diseases that can kill humans in hours. We need advanced technology just to survive, let alone thrive. And human space expansion brought us into contact with new potential threats, Lisa added. Unknown alien species, hostile environments, resource conflicts across multiple worlds. Our military technology had to advance to meet these challenges. Grenth's crystal body was now flickering between different colors so rapidly that it was hard to follow. Are you saying that humans expect to fight wars in space? Humans prepare for the possibility of conflict wherever we go, Ryan replied. We hope for peace, but we prepare for war. This philosophy has kept our species alive for thousands of years. A student from the ice worlds asked the question that everyone was thinking. Are humans planning to use these weapons against other galactic civilizations? The three human students looked genuinely surprised by this question. Jake answered first. No. Humans joined the galactic community because we prefer cooperation to conflict when possible. Human military strength actually makes us more peaceful. Not less, Lisa explained. When you are confident in your ability to defend yourself, you do not need to start fights. You can afford to be generous and cooperative. Humans see other galactic species as potential friends and allies, Ryan added. We have no interest in conquest when we can achieve our goals through trade and diplomacy. Professor Kethavar's scales showed confused patterns of multiple colors. But if humans are so militarily advanced, why do you not simply take what you want from other species? Because taking things by force creates enemies, Jake replied. Making friends and trading partners is much more profitable in the long term. Humans learned this lesson through thousands of years of experience. Also, Lisa said with a slight smile, most of what other galactic species have, Humans can build for ourselves. We are more interested in learning from you than taking from you. Zixtal's voice was still shaky as he asked, "What do humans want to learn from us? Art? Philosophy? Different ways of thinking about problems," Ryan answered. "Humans are very good at warfare and survival, but we admire the elegant solutions that peaceful civilizations have developed. Your harmony projection system, for example, represents thinking that most humans would never consider. Humans respect strength, but we also respect wisdom," Jake added. "Galactic civilization offers us wisdom that we cannot develop on our own." The alien students began to relax slightly as they realized that the humans were not planning to attack anyone, but the knowledge of human military capability still weighed heavily on their minds. "One more question," Professor Kethvar said slowly. "If what you showed us today represents primitive human weapons and you cannot tell us about modern human weapons, can you at least tell us how advanced human military technology has become?" The three humans looked at each other seriously. Finally, Ryan spoke. "Professor, if every other species in the galaxy formed an alliance and attacked humanity at the same time, the result would not be a war. It would be a very brief demonstration of why no one should threaten a Deathworld species that has spent its entire evolutionary history learning how to kill things that are bigger and stronger than we are." The silence that followed this statement was even deeper than before. Every alien in the classroom finally understood exactly what kind of species they had invited to their peaceful academy. They were studying alongside the apex predators of the galaxy. The week following the shocking weapon presentations passed slowly at the Galactic Academy. Students from across the galaxy whispered in corridors about what they had learned in Professor Kethvar's class. The three human exchange students noticed that other students often fell silent when they approached, though not from fear alone. When the next class meeting arrived, the atmosphere in the advanced weapons theory classroom was different. The alien students still showed signs of their earlier shock, but something else had replaced the pure terror in their expressions. Curiosity was beginning to overcome their fear. Professor Kethvar entered the classroom with his scales showing deep, thoughtful patterns of blue and green. He had spent the week processing what he had learned about human military philosophy, and his academic mind was starting to see educational opportunities in the situation. "Students," the professor began, "I have been thinking carefully about our last class meeting. While the revelations about human military technology were shocking, I believe we should continue our academic exploration of these topics." Zixtal floated forward in his water pod, his gills moving more calmly than they had the previous week. "Professor, I have been thinking too. I have many questions about how humans control such dangerous knowledge." "Excellent question, Zixtal," Professor Kethvar replied. "Jake, Lisa, Ryan, can you explain how human society manages advanced military technology?" Jake Martinez stood up to address the class. His manner was more relaxed than it had been during his weapon presentation. "Human military forces operate under strict ethical codes. We have rules about when weapons can be used, against whom, and under what circumstances." "What kind of rules?" Grenth asked, his crystal body showing interested yellow patterns rather than the terrified orange of the previous week. "Rules of engagement," Ryan Bell explained. "Human soldiers are trained never to use more force than necessary to complete their mission. We are taught to protect innocent people, even if it makes our job more difficult." Lisa Park activated a small holographic display showing organizational charts and command structures. "Human military forces have complex systems of oversight and accountability. No individual person can decide to use advanced weapons alone. Many people must agree before serious military action can be taken." "But how do you prevent these weapons from being used wrongly?" Yulama asked through her containment suit's speakers. "Training, discipline, and severe consequences for misuse," Ryan answered. "Human military personnel spend years learning not just how to use weapons, but when not to use them. Breaking military law results in imprisonment or worse." Professor Kethvar's scales shifted to more positive green colors. "This suggests that humans have developed sophisticated systems for controlling dangerous technology. Very interesting from an academic perspective. A student from the Outer Rim colonies raised a tentacle to ask a question. If humans are so advanced at warfare, why did you develop peaceful technologies too? Why not just focus on weapons? Jake smiled slightly. Because humans learned that the best weapon is often not a weapon at all. Many of our greatest military advances came from solving problems in new ways. Can you give us an example? Zixtal asked. Lisa activated another holographic display showing medical equipment and scientific instruments. Human military medical technology became the foundation for civilian healthcare. We learned to treat injuries quickly and effectively because soldiers' lives depended on it. This knowledge saved millions of civilian lives. Military communication systems became the basis for our interstellar networks, Jake added. We needed reliable ways to coordinate forces across long distances. This technology now connects human colonies throughout space. Military transportation research led to improved space travel for everyone, Ryan continued. We needed to move troops and supplies quickly and safely. These advances benefited all human civilians. Grenth's crystal structure brightened with understanding. So your weapons research created peaceful benefits as well? Often the peaceful benefits were more important than the weapons themselves, Lisa replied. Humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. Our harsh environment forced us to innovate constantly. Professor Kethvar leaned forward with obvious interest. This is fascinating. You are describing a civilization that channels destructive capabilities into constructive purposes. Human history shows this pattern repeatedly, Jake explained. Competition and conflict drove innovation, but the innovations improved life for everyone. Yulma's gaseous form expanded slightly, a sign of growing comfort among her species. I have been wondering about something. You said humans prefer cooperation when possible. How do we know this is true? Ryan's expression became more serious. Because humans could have conquered the galaxy by now if that was our goal. We had advanced military technology long before we made contact with galactic civilization. Instead of attacking, humans chose to join the galactic community as peaceful members, Lisa added. We could have taken what we wanted by force, but we chose to ask politely and offer fair trades. But why? A student from the desert worlds asked. If you had such advantages, why choose the harder path of cooperation? Jake considered the question carefully before answering. Because humans learned that making enemies is expensive and making friends is profitable. War destroys resources. Trade creates resources. Also, humans genuinely enjoy learning from other species, Lisa said. Your elegant solutions to problems fascinate us. We could never have developed harmony projection technology or illusion matrix systems on our own. Humans respect strength, but we also respect intelligence and creativity, Ryan added. Every species in this classroom has developed capabilities that humans admire. Zixtal's voice carried new confidence as he spoke. I think I am beginning to understand. Humans became strong because they had to, not because they wanted to hurt others. Exactly, Jake replied. Human military strength exists to protect what we care about, not to take what belongs to others. Professor Kethavar's scales showed pleased patterns as he watched his students work through these complex ideas. This discussion demonstrates the value of academic exchange between different civilizations. We are all learning from each other. Professor, Grenth asked, could we continue studying human military philosophy in future classes? I want to understand how a species can be both peaceful and powerful at the same time. I was hoping someone would ask that question, the professor replied with obvious satisfaction. I have been considering a new course, Comparative Military Philosophy. It would examine how different species approach conflict, defense, and the relationship between strength and peace. Excited murmurs spread through the classroom as students realized the possibilities this new course would offer. Would the course include practical demonstrations? Yulma asked. Theoretical only, Professor Kethvar said quickly. But we could examine the philosophical principles behind different approaches to security and defense. I would like to take that course, Zixtal announced. I want to learn how humans think about protecting their families and communities. Me too, agreed Grenth. Human problem-solving methods might help my people deal with our own challenges. Several other alien students voiced their interest in learning more about human military philosophy and its relationship to human civilization. Ryan looked around the classroom with something approaching surprise. You are not afraid of us anymore. We are still impressed by human capabilities, Zixtal replied. But impressed is different from afraid. We understand now that humans use their strength to protect rather than to conquer. Besides, Grenth added with flickering light patterns that suggested humor, it would be foolish to fear people who could have attacked us but chose to bring cookies to the first day of class instead. Laughter rippled through the classroom as students remembered Jake's attempt to make a good first impression with Earth food. I have been thinking about something else, Lisa said to the alien students. You have all developed amazing non-lethal technologies. Humans could learn from your approaches to conflict resolution. Maybe we could develop hybrid solutions that combine human effectiveness with your elegance. Joint research projects? Professor Kethavar asked, his scales brightening with excitement. Why not? Ryan replied. Humans are always interested in learning better ways to solve problems. This could be the beginning of a very productive academic partnership, the professor announced. Humans bring practical experience with conflict resolution, while other species contribute sophisticated approaches to preserving life and maintaining peace. As the class period ended, students from different worlds began forming mixed groups to discuss project ideas. The initial shock and fear had transformed into genuine academic collaboration. Jake, Lisa, and Ryan walked together toward the exit, observing the changed atmosphere around them. That went better than expected, Lisa commented quietly. They adapted quickly once they understood our motivations, Jake agreed. Ryan paused at the doorway and looked back at the classroom where alien students were eagerly discussing human military philosophy with Professor Kethavar. You know what they would really find interesting? Ryan said with a slight smile. What? Jake asked.